boys and girls, Mrs. Foystel here, and I can't tell you how super excited I am that I get to start this new unit with you. We're going to start a unit called Interpreting Characters, and this is where we really look at the characters in a book and see how they change and grow, and like I said, one of my favorite units, so I'm super excited that I get to start it with you this week. All right, so our first lesson is how to read intensely. And basically read with a purpose. So your learning target today is hopefully by the end you will be able to read intensely to form an idea about the text that I am reading. So you will need Post-it notes or notebook paper and a pencil. So feel free to pause it here and go gather your materials. Now, before we begin reading, I just want to let you know that we are going to be using what's called a mentor text or a chapter book, and we will be reading this together. And I am so excited because it is one of my favorite books ever. And it's kind of funny because when I first saw the book many years ago, and I'm not going to tell you how many years ago that was, I wasn't really that pulled in by it. I looked at the cover and I'm like, okay, maybe. But then I took a class and I read the book and I was hooked. It is, again, my favorite book. I've been reading it for, like I said, many years. And every time I read this book, I make a new connection or I notice another detail. It's fantastic. So brace yourself. Get ready to read with intensity. This book is super thought-provoking, exciting, and fun. It's so good they even made a movie about it. Yep, not lying. All right, so get ready. And, well, let's back up. I'm not going to jump into the book. Let's talk about what does it mean to read intensely. All right, so when we're reading intensely, we want to grow solid, grounded ideas. So we're not missing much, okay? How should we read intensely? Well, first of all, you have to get a good book. And I'm going to tell you right now, this is not a good book. It's a great book. So no problem with that. Got a good book? Fantastic. Check. Read as if you are in the book. Again, in this book, Kate DiCamillo has done a fantastic job pulling us in. It is not hard with this book to make a movie in your mind as you're reading it. Figure out confusing parts. Don't be afraid. If you're reading intensely, you're going to have to read and then reread. It's not unusual. And note important things to talk about later. You will definitely be using your Post-it notes. Because when you're reading intensely, you want to jot down any questions you have, predictions, thoughts about the character. Those are all so important, so don't be afraid to write them down. Gone are the days where you say, oh, that's a good book. Now you are thinking about, this is a good book because the character does this, because you're grounding your ideas with evidence from the text. It's just, I can't tell you, I'm super excited. It's going to be so much fun. All right, so hold on. We're going to read. We're going to start with chapters 1 and 2, and I want you to listen carefully and just listen to my thoughts as I'm reading aloud. Well, I can't wait anymore. Let's just get started. We're going to read The Tiger Rising by Kate DiCamillo, chapter 1. That morning, after he discovered the tiger, Rob went and stood under the Kentucky Star Motel sign and waited for the school bus just like it was any other day. Wait a minute, readers. I have to stop and think. Did he just say he discovered a tiger? Okay. That was huge. That doesn't happen all the time. I'm going to reread that. That morning, after he discovered the tiger, Rob went and stood under the Kentucky Star Motel sign and waited for the school bus just like it was any other day. The Kentucky Star sign was composed of a yellow neon star that rose and fell over a piece of blue neon in the shape of the state of Kentucky. Rob liked the sign. He harbored a dim, abiding notion that it would bring him good luck. Finding the tiger had been luck. He knew that. He had been out in the woods behind the Kentucky Star Motel, way out in the woods, not really looking for anything, just wandering, hoping that maybe he would get lost or get eaten by a bear and not have to go to school ever again. That makes me sad, boys and girls. Why does he not like school? Why does he hate it so much? And that's when he saw the old Beauchamp gas station building, all boarded up and tumbling down. Next to it there was a cage, and inside the cage, unbelievably, there was a tiger. A real life, very large tiger pacing back and forth. He was orange and gold and so bright. It was like staring at the sun itself, angry, trapped in a cage. It was early morning, and it looked like it might rain. It had been raining every day for almost 2 weeks. The sky was gray, and the air was thick and still. Fog was hugging the ground. Boys and girls, I have to stop there. There was a lot. So here we are introduced to a young boy. His name is Rob. He's waiting for the bus, and he is just before getting to the Kentucky Star sign. He's seen a tiger, a real live tiger. And Kate DiCamillo does such a good job. I can picture that scene in my mind where the sky was gray and the air was thick and still. And I love this line, the fog was hugging the ground. I'm going to continue. To Rob, it seemed as if the tiger was some magic trick, rising out of the mist. He was so astounded at his discovery, so amazed that he stood and stared, but only for a minute. He was afraid to look at the tiger for too long, afraid that the tiger would disappear. He stared, and then he turned and ran back into the woods toward the Kentucky Star. And the whole way home, while his brain doubted what he had seen, his heart beat out the truth to him. Tiger, tiger, tiger. Boys and girls, can you just picture Rob running through the woods, sweaty, it's wet, it sounds like it's been real rainy there, and he sees this tiger, and he can't believe it's even real. You know, that tiger, the way it's written, tiger, 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 it's almost like a heartbeat. That was what Rob thought about as he stood beneath the Kentucky Star sign and waited for the bus. The tiger. He did not think about the rash on his legs, the itchy red blisters that snaked their way into his shoes. His father said it would be less likely to itch if he didn't think about it. And he did not think about his mother. He hadn't thought about her since the morning of the funeral, the morning he couldn't stop crying, the great heaving sobs that made his chest and his stomach hurt. His father, watching him, standing beside him, had started to cry too. They were both dressed up in suits that day. His father's suit was too small, and when he slapped Rob to make him stop crying, he ripped a hole underneath the arm of his jacket. "There ain't no point in crying," his father had said afterward. "Crying ain't going to bring her back." First of all, class, I wonder, what is this rash from? I have that question. So I'm going to make a note about that. And I want to know why was his dad so insensitive? And why did he slap Rob when they were at his mother's funeral? What happened to his mother? Why is his mother not with them anymore? It had been 6 months since that day, 6 months since his father since he and his father had moved from Jacksonville to Lister, and Rob had not cried since. Not once. The final thing he did not think about that morning was getting onto the bus. He specifically did not think about Norton and Billy Threemonger waiting for him like chained and starved guard dogs eager to attack. Rob had a way of not thinking about things. He imagined himself as a suitcase that was too full, like the one he had packed when they left Jacksonville after the funeral. He made all his feelings go inside that suitcase. He stuffed them in tight and then sat on the suitcase and locked it shut. That was the way he not thought about things. Sometimes it was hard to keep the suitcase shut, but now he had something to put on top of it. The tiger. So, as he waited for the bus under the Kentucky Star sign, and as the first drops of rain fell from the sullen sky, Rob imagined the tiger on top of his suitcase, blinking his golden eyes, sitting proud and strong, unaffected by all the not thoughts inside straining to come out. Wow, that was just chapter 1, boys and girls, chapter 1. And I already know that Rob is more than likely the main character. And there, right away in the beginning, I had to reread the first part just because the book hit the ground running. I mean, you had to keep up right away. That morning, after he discovered the tiger, what? Rob, a boy, discovering a tiger behind a motel? He was thinking about that tiger as he's getting on the bus, ready to go to school. We learned in chapter 1 that his mom has passed away. His dad is not very sensitive at all. He hit Rob or slapped Rob at the funeral. And now he's thinking about all his not thoughts. Like, he doesn't even think about Rob and Norton and Billy Threemonger waiting for him like chained, starved dogs, eager to attack. And how he has this suitcase. He puts all his thoughts in there and he tries not to think about things that make him sad. And now he's got the tiger to distract him. Let's go on and read chapter 2. "Looky here," said Norton Threemonger, as soon as Rob stepped onto the school bus. "It's the Kentucky Star. How's it feel to be a star?" Norton stood in the center of the aisle, blocking Rob's path. Rob shrugged. "Oh, he don't know," Norton called to his brother. "Hey, Billy, he don't know what it's like to be a star." Rob slipped past Norton. He walked all the way to the back of the bus and sat down in the last seat. "Hey," said Billy Threemonger, "you know what? This ain't Kentucky. This is Florida." He followed Rob and sat down right next to him. He pushed his face so close that Rob could smell his breath. It was bad breath. It smelled metallic and rotten. "You ain't a Kentucky Star," Billy said, his eyes glowing under the brim of his John Deere cap. "And you ain't a star here in Florida. You ain't a star nowhere." "Okay," said Rob. Billy shoved him hard, and then Norton came swaggering back and leaned over Billy and grabbed hold of Rob's hair with one hand, and with the other hand ground his knuckles into Rob's scalp. Rob sat there and took it. If he fought back, it lasted longer. If he didn't fight back, sometimes they got bored and left him alone. They were the only 3 kids on the bus until it got into town, and Mr. Nelson, the driver, pretended like he didn't know what was going on. He drove, staring straight ahead, whistling songs that didn't have any melody. Rob was on his own, and he knew it. "Oh, he's got the creeping crud all over him," said Billy. He pointed at Rob's legs. "Look," he said to Norton. "Ain't he gross?" "Uh-huh," said Norton. He was concentrating on grinding his knuckles into Rob's head. It hurt, but Rob didn't cry. He never cried. He was a pro at not crying. He was the best not crier in the world. It drove Norton and Billy Threemonger wild. And today, Rob had the extra power of the tiger. All he had to do was think about it, and he knew there was no way he would cry. Not ever. They were still out in the country, only halfway into town, when the bus lurched to a stop. This was such a surprising development to have the bus stop halfway through its route that Norton stopped grinding his knuckles into Rob's scalp, and Billy stopped punching Rob in the arm. "Hey, Mr. Nelson!" Norton shouted. "What you doing?" "Yeah, this ain't a stop, Mr. Nelson," Billy called out helpfully. But Mr. Nelson ignored them. He kept whistling his non-song as he swung open the door, and while Billy, Norton, and Rob watched, open-mouthed and silent, a girl with yellow hair and a pink lacy dress walked up the steps and onto the bus. See, boys and girls, I told you, this is a phenomenal book. We just read 2 chapters, and we had to stop and reread. I totally could picture what it looked like in my mind. The movie was clear. I had to stop and think about important things that I want to talk about, like what's with the rash on his leg? Hello, the tiger? What does that? Where are we going to go with that? And I want to know more about his dad and his mom. And then I really didn't like Norton and Billy Threemonger. And there's a fly in my room. All right, readers, here's your task. Read your book with intensity tonight. Pay attention to the book and jot your thinking on a Post-it note. Remember to reread if there is a confusing part. Write down questions or predictions as you read. But most importantly, read as if you are in the book. Read with intensity and enjoy it. Thank you, boys and girls. Thank you for listening. Thank you for participating. I can't wait to see you. And have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.